When we talked about measures of center, we talked about choosing between the mean and the median. Now we have the standard deviation and IQR, interquartile range, as our primary measures of spread. We want to look at how we choose between those and in which scenarios we use each one. The standard deviation is always paired with the mean. So if we're using the mean as our measure of center, standard deviation would be our measure of spread, which makes sense because that formula calculates the average spread, the average deviation around the mean. And if we're using the IQR as our measure of spread, that's always going to be paired with the median. Because again, if we look back at that box plot, it's looking at that distance between the upper and lower bounds of that rectangular region with the median in the center there. So in example 1, in a recent study, researchers found their data had a skewness of negative 0.5308. In part A, this value for skewness suggests that the data is either skewed or symmetric. In this case, while that's a negative value, it's still between negative 1 and 1. So our data is approximately symmetric. Meaning the most appropriate measure of center would be the mean. Since we're using the mean, the standard deviation would be our most appropriate measure of spread. In example 2, another scenario where the data has a skewness of 3.0481. That's clearly greater than or equal to positive 1. So we would say that in this case our data is highly right skewed. For highly skewed data, we turn to the median for its resistance against outliers and skewness. And if we're using the median as our measure of center, then the IQR would be our best choice for the measure of spread for that data.